Hey, everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday night. We've got a brand new song to play for you tonight, and it's from one of my very favorite people in all of country music. And it's got a very powerful message to it, and I think it's something we all need to really listen to right now and think about a whole lot. And the lady that has written and recorded this song is a country music legend, and she has had so many wonderful hit songs, including 16th Avenue, and just a whole list of wonderful, wonderful songs in country music. And she's played, my gosh, she's been on the Grand Ole Opry this last year, and she won a Josie Award for the Lifetime Career Achievement. And so many wonderful things coming her way, and she's making great music, and you're going to hear that new song tonight. It is my honor to welcome Lacy J. Dalton back to My Kind of Country. Lacy, how are you tonight?
Well, better now, hearing your voice, Scott. It's been too long with us. I always have such a great time talking to you, and I love your family, and I just feel like we're cousins or something. I feel like, I don't get to talk to you enough, and it's just wonderful to hear your voice and hear that everybody's doing well. I know you've had some losses in the last year, and your life has changed a great deal, but I know that you put out so much good energy on this radio show that I have to believe that this part of your life is going to be the best and happiest part of your life starting now.
Well, it's a good start because I got you on the show tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you. And we think the world of you. We think the world of you. And can't wait to see you in person again. I know you were with David Frizzell recently over, I think, in Montana, right?
Yes, David. I hosted a songwriters festival at the Music Ranch, Montana, and I was fortunate enough to have David Frizzell as one of the songwriters on my part of the show, and we just had the best time. We had some of my favorite people there who got to be on the show with us. Jimmy Fortune was there on the evening show, and Thomas Schuyler, who wrote 16th Avenue, was on my show and also on the evening show. And I got David. David had an idea for a song, 3 years ago. I'm saying 3 years, but, time flies, and it could be more. But he said, there just ain't no future in getting old. And I said, David, you have to write that song.
Yep.
You've got to write that song. Well, he actually finished that song and sang it on our songwriter show at Music Ranch, Montana, and I can't wait until he gets in the studio and records. They just ain't no future getting old.
Oh my gosh, that's great!
Isn't it great? And the funny thing was, when I went back, David got me inducted into the International Songwriters Hall of Fame about 8 or 9 years ago. And when I went back there, I had a T-shirt. Leslie, my manager, made a T-shirt that said, "Not dead yet," a black T-shirt with white letters, "Not dead yet." And David saw that T-shirt, and he had to have one. So Leslie had one made for him. And we had a picture taken at some point. It was after that at some point, and David was wearing his "Not Dead Yet" T-shirt, and I was there, and we put this up on our Facebooks, and we got hundreds of comments. Not on me, not on David. Everybody just wanted to know where they could get a "Not Dead Yet." Life is a humbling experience every day, but yes, we had a wonderful time out there at Music Ranch, Montana. That's a beautiful place. It's just outside of Livingston, Montana, about 45 miles from one of the entrances to Yellowstone Park in the Paradise Valley, which is where they filmed A River Runs Through It. It's just the most beautiful place you can ever imagine. I love going there. And the owner of Music Ranch, Montana, is an inventor, and he's got patents all over his walls of these huge mining machines that he has designed that are as big as houses, that get shipped all over the world and are used in mines everywhere in every country.
Wow.
And he does the music. His name is Frank Smith. He's a Canadian, formerly, and he's got a wonderful Wyoming cowgirl wife named Karen, and they're really the best people. If you ever get a chance to take your family out there for a visit to Music Ranch, Montana, in the late summer, I wouldn't go until very late summer because Yellowstone Park very, very crowded during the summertime. There are lots and lots, so many tourists, it almost is like Disneyland.
Yeah.
You kind of are going maybe 10 miles an hour on the roads through the park, and of course you have to stop for the buffalo because they get in the road and they won't move. And it really gets to be, it's a difficult place to visit in the summer, but after Labor Day, some of that tourism diminishes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful time to be out there. I'm going out next month.
Okay.
And I'm really looking forward to it. We're going all over Wyoming. We're going to Cody, Wyoming, and Red Lodge, Montana, and Grable, Wyoming, and Cheyenne, and Sheridan, and then we come back to California and do some shows back here in California. I say here in California, but I actually, as you know, live in Nevada, very close to the California border.
Sure.
I live up on the Comstock, which is, Reno sits in a long valley called the Truckee Meadows, and that has the Sierra Mountains to the west, and to the east is a smaller range of mountains called the Virginia Range. And up in those mountains is the old town of Virginia City, and I live just about 8 miles down the road toward Reno from the old town of Virginia City, which is exactly like it was a couple hundred years ago.
Oh, neat.
I mean, they haven't gentrified it. There are a few newer things up there, but basically it's just like the way they call it, the way it was. And there's actually the way it was museum. It was a huge mining town, and the largest strikes of gold and silver were that actually funded the Civil War were mined up there on the Comstock, and it's full of history up here. But what drew me here was there is up here, and has been for as long as anyone can remember, about 2,500 wild horses, and they roam freely on this Virginia range. And one of the reasons that I moved up here was I wanted to be close enough to California to work with my band of 30-some years. But moving back to California when I had been in Nashville for 8 years was impossible, because you could not buy an outhouse on a postage stamp in California for less than $450,000. Mm-hmm. And I had a beautiful ranch. I lived in a lovely place in California before that, and I had a beautiful ranch in Nashville. And I just didn't want to move into some little shack and pay a ton of money for it. So I ended up living up on the Comstock, which I used to call the island in the sky. It's up a real winding switchback road that was built for the railroad back in the 1800s. Oh. And, to bring the gold and silver ore down into Reno to be trucked anywhere in the world from Reno. But the road itself it keeps a lot of people from living up where I live, because it's a 2-lane and a very narrow switchback thing. So I live basically 24 minutes from the Reno airport, but in a place that is really kind of pristine, and not a lot of people live up on the mountain like I do. And you have to kind of be a mountain person to live up there. It's not the easiest place to live in the winter.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So,
yeah.
Oh my God. I probably had more snow than you guys.
I bet. Sounds beautiful. I'd love to see it sometime. That sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, you guys would have a ball in Virginia City. It's fun to go up there, and you can go through some of the old mansions of the gold barons, and the railroad barons built these beautiful old mansions, and there are saloons that have not changed much at all in the last couple hundred years. I mean, they still have the same old bars with the people's initials carved in them, and they have a lot of Western. They have docents who run around and do gun. They have train robberies, and they have gunfights in the street, and reenactments. They have Civil War reenactments up there once a year. It's amazing. It's an amazing place to live. I live out of that hubbub. I have a little ranch about 8 minutes south toward on the switchback road down to Reno. There's a place called the Highland Ranches, and that's where I live.
Oh, perfect. Well, as Lacy mentioned, she's got a lot of tour dates coming up, folks. You can go to lacyjdalton.org, which is her website, and check all that stuff out. And she's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. And make sure you, if you get a chance to go see her put on a show, she's one of the best in the business. And I've watched her get standing ovation after standing ovation, and she deserves every single one. Let me tell you.
It does make you feel good because I haven't actually been on the radio really since 1992. In a way that has been promoted by big record companies and so on. I am on the radio on certain, like on your station, on certain stations that do traditional music, and also on some outlaw stations. And I think this new song, I'm not sure exactly where it belongs, but it's a song that I think it needs to be heard. It was a gift to me, and I think that what the song talks about is, the second verse of the song goes, "Call me left wing, call me right. We are split right down the middle in this fight. Divided we fall. That rule don't change. It's just the devil by a different name, boys. The devil by a different name."
Amen.
And that's what the song is about. It's about all the divisiveness that we are feeling, and so much hostility between two major sort of life views in this country. And what we need to do is remember how we always used to come together in the middle. Nobody gets everything they want, but we need to remember how to build bridges. We don't. We have forgotten. I think we've blown up a lot of bridges, and it's hard for us to talk across the chasms that we create by our beliefs. And particularly, I always say this: your political party is not your football team. It is not your football team. People, I think, are confused by that. Politicians are politicians. And whatever side they are on, a lot of times they are not looking out for their constituencies the way we would really like them to.
You got that
right. The ones who do, pretty much they stand out pretty clearly. Mm-hmm. You can see who's actually doing work. I have a foundation for wild horses, as you know, that I've had since about 2003. And we know which politicians are actually trying to find a solution to the challenge that wild horses have, which is, generally with it's always perceived that the problem is with ranching and wild horses, and that is certainly part of the problem. But also, they just are running out of room. They need places where they can be safe and they can be around for our children and our children's children.
That's right.
And we know from working with politicians, we know that there are a lot of things that go into decisions about things we care about that probably shouldn't be in the mix. And politicians, by their very nature, I'll never forget, they asked me to run for the Senate here twice in Nevada. And after I went around and met all the people who were going to give me the thousands of dollars that you need to run, I thought to myself, I am the kind of person, if someone does something for me and gives me money, I'm going to feel beholden to them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to feel like I ought to help them as they have helped me. Well, you're instantly sort of compromised by that sort of a thing. And I thought, this is not a job I can do. This is not something I would be effective. I'm much more effective as an advocate for things than I would be being a politician and feeling beholden to whomever might have put $50,000 up for me to run, or $100,000 or whatever it took. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to remember that when we're dealing with politicians. We have to remember they're not your football team. That loyalty that you have toward a football team, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate with political parties. I really don't. You go with the one that maybe has more of your interest or appears to have more of your interest, in line, but you don't let it divide you from your friends and family, where you can't have Thanksgiving dinner with your family because you have different political views. That's happening all the time.
It is, and different views on a lot of different things. And it used to be, I mean, everyone has their own opinions and they're entitled to those. That's what our country's about. But we shouldn't be trying to constantly knock the other person down because they won't agree with us. It's like, well, you may be right, you may be wrong, but we really need to just get along and have a lot more tolerance for each other. And I love that message in this song. And Devil by a Different Name, it's I think the title kind of says it all there.
Well, a lot of us call ourselves Christians, and yet we feel that we need to other. We need to do othering. Well, they're other than us, so they're not. Well, that's against one of the main tenets of Christianity, which is judge not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do judge with righteous judgment. Don't be judging everybody. A lot of stuff is none of our business. I think we'd be a lot better off if we pay attention to our own plate.
Yeah.
And let other people live and let live.
Yeah, there you go. Right there. That's it.
Really, I really think we need to learn how to do that again. We're interfering with each other's lives and having the government interfere in our personal decisions about our health care and a lot of other things. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's any of our business. I think we need to tend to our own business, take that log out of our own eyes. Especially when we're putting someone down or thinking someone is less than or other than us.
Right.
We have to remember that there's just one spirit. There's only one spirit in all that is, and we're all part of that.
Yeah, and we're all human. We all have our faults, and
we're all a mess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're all a mess.
We have enough to deal with cleaning up our own mess. We really do.
That's right.
Before we start picking on other people. But that's what this song is about. I don't know how it will be received, but I know that it was a gift to me to just say to everyone, including myself, look what we're doing.
You mentioned, Lacy, this was a gift to you. How did this song come to you?
The best songs always come to me. I believe they come from spirit. I believe, I don't believe we write. We do write some of them down, the ones that aren't very good, but the ones that are powerful. I believe they come from spirit. I believe they are gifts. We write them down, but we're not necessarily the writer. We try to keep ourselves out of the way enough to let whatever messages, and there are so many good ones right now. That song, Till You Can't, if you've got a dream, chase it, because the dream won't chase you back. I think those are messages from spirit.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going through hell, keep going. I think these are messages from spirit. And those are the songs that I enjoy singing most. I enjoy singing stuff like Wild Turkey and fun songs as well.
Sure.
But, and I love to entertain people. I love to make people laugh. And some of my songs are they're songs about what is happening with the wild horses and race horses, and sometimes they make people cry. I have a song on my Last Wild Place CD that is called She Could Run, and it's the story of a racehorse. And I remember playing it one time at a coffee house up in Boston, Massachusetts, and when I was finished, the audience, it's actually a song about the indomitable, infinite life of the spirit. The spirit of animals and people, is the same. It's the spirit that is in all things, and it is, it is eternal. And that's what that song is really about. But in it, the horse has an accident, and it has to be euthanized in the song. I could not get the audience back. They were crying. They were sobbing. I've done it before, and I've done it with a hallelujah chorus behind it, and it doesn't have that same effect. But when you don't have that hallelujah chorus at the end, where the horse is actually, her spirit has left her body and she can run. Praise be to glory. Praise be to glory. She could run. She's running through the grass and, the sky. Her spirit is free from that body that was broken. And it's really a song that can be uplifting, but I'll never forget singing it. I did it half as a poem in that Boston coffee house, and I was so surprised at the end. It was like, I couldn't get the people back. I couldn't comfort them. I think I ended up by singing, I sang Little Boy Blue, which is a song that came to me in a dream for my son, and it's a very comforting kind of a song. I think that's how I finally was able to get
wow.
from, there might have only been 40 people there, but they were all just with their heads down on the table, and they were all, sobbing, and I went, oh, what have I done? This was not my intention. But,
your music is so powerful, and I've watched firsthand how people react to your music, and I think they've caught you by surprise. I know when you were up here last time that you did Scarecrow and got a standing ovation for it, and I know that surprised you. And I thought
that song is the most different song. I was trying to get some funding to help record it, and they said, "Well, what kind of a song is this?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know. I just want to tell you it comes from the very deepest part of my heart and soul. And when I've sung it properly, it is an extremely powerful song, but it's a song about, I had a marriage that lasted for a very long time and ended with a betrayal that I had no idea that the person that I'd been with for that long was capable of the kind of cruelty that happened at the end of that relationship. And I was just blasted to smithereens. I didn't think I'd recover. Of course, I'm, Sarah Hartburn, and I think, no one has ever suffered the way that, but I really was devastated. And from the devastation and from the darkest, deepest place that I had gone in my spirit, I wrote that song, Scarecrow. And it does have that effect on people. People jump sometimes out of their seats. This has happened with this song, The Devil by a Different Name. When I sing it live, I sing the last verse a little bit differently, a little more powerfully than I sang it on the CD. And I'm so excited because we just signed a distribution and promotion deal with Time Life. And I asked them, I said, "Have you heard my song?" And they said, "We'd like to promote your new single." And I said, "Well, have you heard the song?" And they said, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, we can't sign anything. You need to hear all the words to this song before I sign anything, because you may not like what I say in this song. It's powerful, and it's talking about, basically what it's saying is, if we call ourselves Christians or even good humans, and we are judging others to be less than in some way or wrong in some way, then we are not in harmony with the teachings that we say have made us Christians. Christ had one message: love God with all your heart, mind, and spirit. Love yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. And he said that is the whole of the law. And all the other laws of life are built upon it. Mm-hmm. And that is what I came to teach.
Yep.
And so, in some of the new work, I'm just reminding us, and myself too, I'm writing these songs I'm not just writing them for all of us, I'm writing them for myself too. I can be horribly judgmental. And I have to work on it, 24/7.
Yep.
I have to look at myself and go, what kind of thoughts are you having about your brother or your sister? Stop that.
And we're all guilty of that. And I think that there's a message there that we all need to hear. And you're right. Sometimes you just need to stop and say, wow, what am I doing here? And this song is really, I have to tell you, it's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's spot on. It couldn't come at a better time. And I also love, I have to mention this, it's been a long time since I've heard the phrase hurdy-gurdy in a song.
Well, you know what it was? I had been watching Netflix, and I was watching Black Sails, and I found out that my producer, I didn't know this when I wrote the song, but I found out that my one of my dear, dear friends and producers actually did a lot of that music for Black Sails, which actually included a lot of hurdy-gurdy, that, strange sound of it. I believe it's French or Portuguese. I don't know where the hurdy-gurdy, but it's in a lot of old French songs from the 40s and stuff. It's an unusual sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a little bit of it in this. I put a little bit of it in "The Devil by a Different Name," because the chorus goes, "This wicked world is dancing with the devil in a wild and crazy hurdy-gurdy dance. Caught up in the frenzy and the revel, there's a dreadful price to pay for this romance." And under the hurdy-gurdy part, I put a little hint of that sound, that unusual hurdy-gurdy sound.
That's great. I love it. I picked that up right away. I love that part.
Well, I'm glad it's an unusual sound. If you haven't heard that sound, it sounds similar to an accordion, but it's much rawer.
Yeah.
A much rawer, more earthy kind of a sound. You probably wouldn't want to hear a whole night of it.
Well, we're going to play it for our listeners tonight, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Let us know here at My Kind of Country. Get a hold of me through the Facebook page, and I would be happy to pass that on to Lacy. And I think you're going to love it just as much as I do. Lacy, before we go, I wanted to mention, too, congratulations on your Josie Award from last year, and you were on the Grand Ole Opry performing there again, and I watched that on the video online, and what a wonderful thing to see you on that Opry stage again.
Oh, my gosh, Scott, I couldn't believe how incredible the technicians are at the Grand Ole Opry. We walked out on that stage, and it must have taken us like a minute and a half to get the sound perfect.
Wow.
And they are so good. I wrote a letter. I mean, they're so good at the Grand Ole Opry. I don't think, in all the wonderful places I've played, and I've played some very, very wonderful places, I believe that it's the best technical crew I have ever worked with, and I've worked with some of the best in the world. It was really a joy to sing 16th Avenue with the help of that. And everybody in Nashville was so great. I don't get back there too much because I live way out here in the West. And when I go back to Nashville, it's almost like, I'm kind of like a weird cousin from the West Coast. But they're lovely. Everybody's so good to me back there. It's true. I get to see, David Frizzell and Janie Fricke and T. Graham Brown and T.G. Shepherd. And I just, everybody, all these wonderful, Johnny Lee and Mickey Gilley before, and it's really good to see them because I don't see them very often. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm going back to see my family. I'm going back to see my cousins, and they're always so great, And I do kind of have a family there, and I really love them.
Everybody you mentioned are wonderful people. I know them myself, and they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And you're included in that. I can't tell you how grateful I am that somehow or another I was put in your orbit, and we've been able to, get to know each other and spend time together and things like that. I don't take lightly, and I hope you know that.
I really have always felt that you and your family were some of the most sincere and friendly and warm people that I've had a chance to be with, and I've so appreciated your support. You've always been really supportive of my music, and that's not the easiest thing to do when you don't have a big record company pushing you to I'm an independent artist, which was a nice thing about that Josie Award. It was a lifetime award for being an independent artist, and that's a lot. It means a great deal to me because when you're an independent artist, you have to do all your own promotion.
That's
and
right.
you don't have that big machine, which I may not have been able to do this job as long as this career. As long as I have, if I hadn't had such a good start in Nashville to begin with from CBS Records, they had a team there that I still see some of the people that helped me become who I became in Nashville, and I love them. They did a fabulous job. Marianne McCready and Sue Binford, and just some of the lovely, lovely people back in the very beginning of my career. Of course, the great Billy Sherrill, my producer, who was also the producer, as you know, of George Jones and Tammy Wynette and Ray Charles, Almost a Year of His Life, and Charlie Rich and David Allen Coe and Johnny Paycheck, and I mean everybody. But he was, of all the producers that I've ever had, I think that Billy was. I think he believed in me more than I believed in myself. He was so good to me. He was so kind to me.
Well, he had a good eye for talent, that's for sure, and he left an indelible mark in country music. There's no doubt about that.
He was just a very good person. He was, if you got stuck writing a song, he'd help you. He'd say, "Well," he had this nasal voice. "Well, Lacy, why don't you think about, this song? Every song has a past, a present, and a future. Just think about that." And he would give you tips like that if you didn't know quite where you were going to go with the song. A lot of times the song will kind of grow like a plant. You'll start writing it, and it might grow a different direction than you thought when you first began to write it. And sometimes you get stuck. And sometimes it's wonderful to have a great writer. Billy Sherrill was a great songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
So, I had the very best start you could ever have in Nashville. Nashville was not a particularly great fit for me, probably because I came probably more from folk music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can hear that in my later works, like the Last Wild Place anthology, which I think is the best thing I've ever done.
I agree. It's beautiful.
I really do. I did it in my own studio with my own players. We redid some of the big hits from Nashville, and we didn't change them that much because I knew that people were used to hearing those songs done a certain way, so I just put my own little English on them with my own players in my own studio with my own engineer and a wonderful producer, Tom Bocci, and that was just a magic project. I think it was really wonderful. I hope that we get a chance to make another project as magic as that one.
I agree. And oddly enough, when I pull out 16th Avenue, or if I'm taking it easy, those are the versions that I play because I just love those. Remakes can be sketchy sometimes, but if you do them for the right reasons, and you set out to, just like you said, put a little bit of your own English there and just make it a little bit better rather than just cranking it out for another label just to have it on the label. You didn't do that with this project. You improved on what you had done, and there's something about them that they're just magical. And you're right, I absolutely love that album. And those songs are usually the go-to songs for me when I play your stuff on the show.
Oh, I'm very honored to hear that, and I think it's the function of having played with a lot of those players, some of them for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
My band down in California, some of those players were with me for 33 years.
That's incredible.
So they knew how to play with me, how to be with me. Although I have to tell you, the people I played with in Nashville were superb. They were superb musicians. They just, they don't get much better than the people who I had on my records in Nashville. But it's like, I don't know if you've ever owned any horses or ridden horses.
Oh, you bet.
I love all horses, and I enjoy riding a number of different horses, but I always enjoyed riding my own horses best because I knew them and they knew me.
Yep.
And that was I think that's why the Last Wild Place anthology is such a powerful project, because there was a lot of that going on, and my ex-husband was the engineer, very, very talented engineer, and I think he did. I think that music still stands up to this day. I can't listen to a lot of the other stuff that I've done, but that one, if somebody has it on somewhere, I think, oh, I still like that.
That's good.
Usually when somebody puts one of my records on, I just cringe. Well, I'm always thinking, oh, how could I have not? Why did I do it that way? Why didn't I take a breath there? I mean, you just, But with the Last Wild Place, I don't really do that, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm critical of stuff on it too, but not like I am with some of the other things. But you have to understand, when you go in to do a project in Nashville, Jimmy Bowen, who was my producer for a long time, it's called his Song Factory. Mm-hmm. You had 5 days, and you were to get those songs done in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I took my time with the Last Wild Place anthology.
Yeah,
I took my time, and I was with my own people. And I think that's why that particular project will probably, it'll probably have some longevity, and it already has.
Oh, it already has. My gosh, you won awards for that too. I mean, it's incredible, And I guess I'm going to throw this out there. I'm hoping someday you will do this, because it has occurred to me. I would love to hear you do a live album sometime, because, with Dale Punet, and he's just so fabulous. And so many of your songs, we were talking about Scarecrow earlier, that song completely changed for me when I heard you do it live. I mean, I liked it when I heard the studio version, but when you did it live, there was just something that just absolutely blew me away. And I hope someday maybe you would do a live recording, because I think people, if they don't get to see you live, they're really missing out. And maybe that would kind of help for those that don't have a chance to see you. Maybe they could hear what I'm talking about.
From your mouth to God's ear. The one thing that we've learned about live albums is you take maybe 6 or 10 performances, and you take the best thing from each performance. Well, every time we try to record our shows, something happens. It's like the stuff breaks down, or it's actually kind of a joke. It's like we were at Sutter Creek, and I go down there at least twice a year to this wonderful little theater in Sutter Creek, California, and the Brian, who owns the place, is a wonderful engineer. And I don't know how many times we tried to record our show down there, and it's just something happens. There's either some horrible noise that happens to the whole thing, or equipment breaks, or it's actually gotten to be kind of a joke. But I would like to do a live album. I enjoy performing live, and so from your mouth to God's ear, maybe we'll get someone that wants to support a project like that. And I think it'll be a worthwhile project. Even if it's just the duo, just me and Dale.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times, I really like performing that way now. That was we both realized at a certain point that carrying a band on the road, which I still do, is a very expensive project. For an independent person. If you don't have that record company support and promotion, you're paying a person's airplane fares, their transportation, their rooms, their food, and of course their paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when you have multiple people, adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So and when you're independent, you have to foot that bill from whatever you get from the show. And what we decided was that we would probably be more successful and have more longevity if we worked as a duo or a trio most of the time, and then just called in a band when they really wanted a band.
Right. And I hope everybody enjoys this new song. We're going to play it for our listeners right now. It's called Devil by a Different Name. And it's available.
Right.
It's available at lacyjdalton.org and all the great places we get our music. And let us know what you think about it. It's a wonderful song, and I hope you'll really listen to it very carefully. And Lacy, as always, I just cannot thank you enough for being so giving of your time. And as I said before, I'm so thankful that we get to be part of each other's world for this little bit of time tonight.
Oh, and for all the rest of the time that we'll have together. And please, hug your family for me. And tell Merritt I'm going to be hugging. I'll give Carl the dog.
Give Carl a big hug for us, and we'll be playing Carl the Christmas dog before too long here.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much, and I hope we get to see you again real soon. We are definitely overdue for a visit.
We definitely are. Well, we visited a long time on this show today, and thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Folks, here is Devil by a Different Name from Lacy J. Dalton as we continue with My Kind of Country.
Call me whiskey, call me wine, call me cocaine or codeine, call me power, call me fame. I'm just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name. Call me left wing, call me right, we are split right down the middle in this fight. Divided we fall, that rule don't change. It's just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name. This wicked world is dancing with the devil in the wild and crazy hurdy-gurdy dance. Caught up in the frenzy and the revel, there's a dreadful price to pay for this romance. Call me imam, call me priest, we are brothers separated by belief. But a loveless faith is a ball and chain. It's just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name. Call me brown skin, call me white, it's not the color of our skin that makes us right. When somebody tells you we're not the same, that's just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name. There's a still small voice that whispers deep inside us. Listen close and you might hear it say, there's a light still out here shining in the darkness. It'll be here when you find you've lost your way. So call me gay, boys, call me straight. Must we stare across this chasm filled with hate? If they say we're wrong, we should be ashamed. That's just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name. And this wicked world is dancing with the devil in the wild and crazy hurdy-gurdy dance. Caught up in the frenzy and the revel, there's a dreadful price to pay for this romance. I am a woman, I am strong, but I've been told that I am less than for so long. Eve ate an apple, they say we're to blame. That's just the devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different name, boys, devil by a different, devil by a different, devil by a different name.